Hi. First of all, welcome. Okay, I'll walk in front of it. I would like to do a quick show of hands. How many of you, this is the first time you come to a Topsort Developer Day? Great, because it's the first time we're actually throwing it. So if you thought you were very late and we were being very rude in sending you an invitation, please don't be offended, because it actually probably means you were one of the first. We were really not that far ahead in terms of our organization and planning, and it's kind of a miracle. I think it all came together last minute. And so thank you so much for being here, and hopefully this is going to be worth your time. So before we start, a couple of things. I want to give a big thank you to the speakers from yesterday. So we had a really amazing talk with Al, who actually walked us through marketplaces, market design, some really interesting topics there, and some of us, hopefully maybe some of you got some signed copies of his books. We didn't want to have him sign an endless amount of books, but it was really awesome to kind of hear his thoughts and learn about kidney exchanges too. And then the second was also Mike Ostrovsky, so my co-founder and a really brilliant economist in the field. And he sort of shared a very interesting cautionary tale on auction dynamics so far, so that was also very fun. And then this event center has been really awesome to us. It wasn't easy to find a venue sort of with the planning time we had that would do the things that we would ask for. So the staff here has been really wonderful. And then just the last one, Topsort team, our marketing team, our product team, our ops team, you guys have done an amazing job. So this really started because we wanted to have a place to talk about the product development we've done for the past 12 months. I've also been going to a lot of conferences myself with our go-to-market team, and oftentimes you feel like you go to events that are very heavy on the sales or marketing parts that are very interesting, but feels like there's a bit of a missing space for builders and product and tech people to also have those conversations, and maybe we're able to go a little bit deeper into the technical sides, or kind of just be a bit more substantial in terms of the nitty-gritties that sometimes maybe not everyone's interested in, but it could also be very fun to get into as well. And please, I really think our team has put so much work into this, and you guys deserve applause. And then a big thank you for our partners who are here in general, so Sky, Agolia, Broadside, Google, Twilio, right, and then Group by Vistar, and so many more. And then we'll have speakers from the following amazing companies over the next 2 days as well. And then really in the next couple of days, what can you expect, right? First, you'll hear from experts in the ecosystem, and we'll be talking about what we think happens not just to one of us, but to all of us, and what can we get prepared for what's ahead. And then the other part is that you get to meet the builders. We really have what we think are authentic voices from products, teams, marketplaces, delivery apps to talk about how they think about building the future of retail media and the next wave of ads. And then the other part is really meeting the brains behind the AI part. So we have a really amazing talk tomorrow with someone from NVIDIA about LM models, and then Google has a workshop tomorrow as well that we're very excited about. And also see and experience a product demo, which is going to happen in 30 to 40 minutes, we'll see. So, very quick, when we were sort of preparing for this talk or this event, we wanted to just zoom out and really think about the trends or the things that are happening in the space. The first thing was that we really, one thing that always surprised me is that how old advertising is. It's been almost as old as how long civilizations have been around. It started with print, which obviously even today is still a format that's pretty robust, but it has its limitations. Camping magazines, it's cool, but pretty easy to kind of just say not everybody open those magazines today anymore. And then audio is also kind of an interesting format, right? Radio back in the day, where it does require certain sort of self-selection, or you need to tune into the station. Same thing as out of home, same thing as television, but out of home is a very interesting format. I think that's still kind of evolving a lot these days, where you need to go really to very densely populated areas, but then you have really good awareness that are more on a broad scale in digital. So that's really the era we're in right now, where we see that it's easier to measure. A lot of it has gone programmatic, and that's sort of the space that we're in today. So it's definitely taking over. A majority of the ad spending today is in digital, and within that, right, we're seeing about a fifth of it is retail media. And one thing that was very interesting when we were looking at the space is that, like, it took about 14 years for search to get from 10 billion to 100 billion in terms of market size. And then it took about 8 years for social to go from 10 to 100 billion. So then when we look at retail media, it took about 6 years. Where right now, the question really is, like, you know, how many years and how fast can we get to the next milestone, to 200 billion or more? And what does it mean, right? What tooling, what technology, what's needed? How can we get imaginative and creative about how we get to the next phase of it? So the industry is at a very interesting point, I think, where a lot of us are no strangers to this graph, but you do see this sort of like parallel and like the long tail of a lot of different retail media networks popping up over the past few years, and as we speak, continue to. And right now there are over 200 retail media networks in the US alone. And that means you really start to have a lot of pain points around just being able to buy from these different retail media networks. So one agency I was speaking with was saying, like, you know, we had 6 people on my team, and it would be so chill and so fun. Like, we get to go out for drinks, leave the office at 4 p.m., and we were managing $10 million of like search or social budgets. That was very easy. And now if you want to do that for retail media, that's almost impossible. And then another brand was saying, like, even just to buy from one group that has different offering and different tech stack, different stores under it, it could become pretty complicated as well. So there's definitely pain around fragmentation. And then we also see concerns about data privacy, of course, and then measurements, right, attribution, lots of debates there, and then of course scaling. How do we get out of this sort of manual, what is the art versus science in all of this, and how do we scale in a scientific way? That's also, you know, something I hear a lot about. And then I think that given that we're in the birthplace of internet and really kind of, you know, in where Topsort also started, Palo Alto, we wanted to also look at the technology shifts that's been happening. I think sometimes it doesn't feel so close to the retail world or to the ads world, a little bit closer, but still there's a bit of a disconnect between the two. And then we're sitting on these massive amounts of computes available, right? And then yet retailers are really underutilizing the technology that's out there, and then like the two worlds can really just mesh a little bit more. And that's sort of how we think about what really makes AI special. We hear a lot about AI. There's generative AI, there's predictive AI, and really ultimately AI makes meaningless data that's already there a little bit more useful. You kind of pick up signals that tell you something, and it's actually actionable, and you get good insights from it. And ultimately, that's what gets us very excited, because perhaps we get to uncover some truth that wasn't there, or it was kind of tainted by our bias, or not. So there are new possibilities now because of the technology shifts that are happening in the background. So how can retail media really evolve with the tech breakthroughs that are happening in the background? A big trend we think is that retail media can now finally go predictive, which is huge. So it's not just audience segmentation, static, it can go very much into real-time, contextual, and then also like it's not just historical performance driven, it could really be like dynamic and future and forward-looking. And instead of very limited real-time optimization, you can have very much real-time intelligent optimization as well. And then there was actually, so Topsort, we started about 4.5 years ago, and we started with a mission, right? There are 3 of us that started the company, Francisco, Michael, and me, and we all have a bit of an engineering background, and thought that we wanted to really democratize what works really well for the big tech in Silicon Valley and truly get to the core of what makes these really big ad businesses scale. And with Michael's expertise in sort of scaling and building ads on Pinterest, LinkedIn, Google Play Store, we really looked very deep on a lot of different topics from the very first principle of it. And then that means we went straight into the kernel, right? Like we wanted to see if we can actually democratize the chip of what makes these systems scale. So one thing that comes up a lot when we talk to retailers, and when I think even as just like people that read news or like think about the industry, you could think AI could be very expensive, right? The numbers are very lofty sometimes, and it's not necessarily a very friendly or accessible concept. And when we were thinking about if we were going to build this AI engine, okay. If we're going to build this AI engine and the like AI that works for retailers, then we started thinking about what makes the most sense that would make it really very much retailer friendly. And so there are two Excel here, of course, and then so one line, imagine it's, be more careful. So imagine there's cost, right? And then there's speed. So it goes exponentially more expensive if you were to want to go more real time, more precise, and then the cost goes much, much higher. So then that means when we look at the retail world, not everything needs to be real time, right? Sometimes you don't get all your purchase data every 5 seconds or so. And what are the things that are maybe a little bit slower, a little bit faster? So we started looking at like a balance between what's cost effective and what's retailer friendly, and we found this sweet spot. Essentially, that's what we consider retailer and retail media friendly AI. And then today has under 5 milliseconds response time at over 95% of the time. And then it also gives you about 80% accuracy in terms of prediction, which is pretty cool. We'll talk more about that later. And then also it does not break the bank. We keep it within the realm of what makes sense and the margin economics of a retail media business or a retail business in general. And then today we'll also kind of go into the bigger questions, right? Where's the ecosystem headed over the next couple of days as well? And then how can we accelerate the speed to the broader space of retail media adoption? And what does AI and the macro technology trends shifts have to do with retailers and retail media in general? Because the answer is not necessarily clear right now. And we think a lot about where do we fit in all of this as well. Like we said, the conversation really started pretty much like this on Zoom chats and text messages around beginning of 2021. And we were just losing our minds and sort of thinking maybe we can build a product that would act as a bit of a nice escape from what was happening in the world as well at the time. And but we really have a mission, right, which is we want to build privacy first ad infrastructure that's scalable and friendly and really democratize what works really well for the tech giants in the valley. And then we also look at, so we also will look at kind of how the product has been evolving, right? Like we started in the first year with just the retail media platform, and in the second year we added the APIs, which made it more of an ad serving friendly layer. And then we started doing display and offsite, so going a little bit more omni-channel. And this year we think it's really about the product going more AI native and programmatic, and building the tools that's sort of not just for us, but for really different players in the ecosystem. And then I think retail media is sort of at an interesting evolution. We started with a very close network model, and then we started with then self-service or private markets model, going a little bit in-house was sort of the talk about 2 years ago, and then now everyone's sort of saying the pendulum's swinging back. And we think the answer sort of lies somewhere in between, right? It's authentic, it's programmatic, and you can have AI native and have the choice of deciding whether or not you are going to rely on network or direct. So all of that proposes the question, what is the 3.0? And I don't have the answer necessarily, and really very much looking forward to having this discussion in the next session with Toby from DoorDash and Christina from Google. So thank you.